Good morning, viewers. On behalf of India Insurtech Association, BIMTech, and Club Inmos, I, Professor Manoj Pandey, extend my hearty welcome to all of you. This is the era of digitization, digital economy, digital disruption, and all the business domain, irrespective, is getting positive disruption from the technology part. As a customer, there are certain sections where we have seen it very clearly. Earlier, I remember my student days when we had to be in queue for maybe 2 to 3 hours to get a railway reservation ticket in late 80s, 90s. Things have changed. Now, sitting at home using our mobile phone, we are getting railway ticket, air ticket, hotel booking, and so on. Even the retailing business has got disrupted in a big way. Now the Flipkart, Amazon, etc. is giving tough time to the brick and mortar retail outlets like Big Bazaar. They are in trouble. Similar kind of things has happened, and to be much more in banking and financial sector. Practically for all our banking need, we can rely on our mobile phone, a smart mobile phone. I'm very happy to say, and you must have seen also, even our students have started investing in stock market and mutual fund using their smartphone. So this is the area, banking and financial sector, which has seen really a great change over the period of time. Whatever we see or use on mobile phone, users experience, it's very good. But much of work go behind that scene. There are different layers of IT infrastructure. There are different levels of integration from one stakeholder to the other. And that is a really a big task. Yesterday, we attended one webinar on the implementation of IFRS. And there, more than the actuarial inputs and the accounting inputs, the fear was really on the IT infrastructure. So please understand, whatever we do and feel as a wow kind of sentiment when we do some work, there are people, there is an infrastructure, there are hard work of the people which is there. And in IT parlance, it is known as stack, a new word for me also, which I Googled and I tried to figure it out. Now, after banking and financial sector, it is the turn of insurance domain, which is supposed to get the benefit of all these facilities. India Insurtech Association, which is a non-profit organization, practically a platform for the industry, Insurtech industry, they have taken a lead and they are trying to get the collaboration from all the stakeholders to create something known as India Insurtech Stack. And the leading that particular initiative is none other than Mr. Sumit. Now, let me give a brief introduction of Sumit. Sumit is basically of course, he's actually also, but yeah, a technical man, having done his BTech in Information and Communication Technology from Dhirubhai Ambani Institute. He joined Kotak Life as a technical man in their business analyst profile and other things, but subsequently got the flavor of actuarial science. Working with Kotak, he started his actuarial studies, completed it, worked with Kotak, then with maybe with Swiss Re for 4-5 years. Since 2017-18, he changed his gear and he himself proudly identifies as non-traditional actuary. His profile is like that, non-traditional actuary. And in his own capacity, he has already started 2 ventures. One is actuarial consultant and another is Protect Me Well, which I have used myself, which talks about the moment you give your inputs about your liability, it will suggest you what kind of insurance policy you should take. So who can be a better person who is leading this particular movement? So welcome Sumit, and also I extend my welcome to my colleague Prateek ji. He will be there with us to help and ask more questions, whatever I have beyond that. So thank you Sumit for accepting the invitation and giving your time.
Thanks a lot, Professor Manoj, for inviting me and for such a wonderful introduction. Already feel quite excited about the talk now.
Okay, so I will be asking a question like a layman, a very basic question. So please tell me what this word stack mean in IT industry.
Yeah, so stack could have multiple meanings in even in IT parlance. The stack that I learned when I was pursuing my engineering degree was meant to refer a data structure. Like you have integer as a data structure, float as a data structure. There's a stack which is a data structure, but stack here means something different. In here, the stack means a collection of software which is designed to work together as a single unit. For example, TCP/IP, the protocol on which internet runs, is a collection of several libraries and protocols. They combine, they work together so that all of us can use internet, right? Equally, if you think of to understand this better, some developers call themselves as a full stack developer, which essentially means that they can also do the front end part of it, the website that we see, but also the backend part of it, which could be written in, let's say, PHP or Python. So these are full stack developers. Let's also extend this further. For example, some new age insurance companies call themselves as full stack insurers, which means that they would also sell insurance, they'll build the product, they'd also do claim servicing, which is essentially as insurance company does. But in a tech world, any tech insurance company, they prefer to call themselves as a full stack insurer.
Okay, so basically different kinds of layer combination of integration, API, UPI, whatever. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to attend your session in India Insurtech Association, and there you gave one statement that India Insurtech stack will be more or less on the similar kind of structure of India stack. Yeah. Can you tell me what this India stack is all about?
Yeah. So let's understand India stack slightly better. All of us use it in some form or shape, because anyone who has done any UPI transaction, which I think all of us would have, has used India stack. But let's understand India stack slightly better. So India stack has 3 layers. One is the identity layer, which was solved through Aadhaar. So because of Aadhaar, all of us have a identity, single unique identity, which contains our name, our fingerprint, our iris, our face structure, which identifies all of us uniquely. So that's the first layer, identity layer. The second layer is the payment layer, which UPI is part. So essentially, with UPI, once the UPI was launched, about 200 banks, which is almost every bank in India, implemented the same set of APIs, which means now if I were to work with or integrate same set of APIs as a big tech company, as a Google Pay, as a Paytm, I'm now connected to 200 banks in one go, which otherwise would have meant working with, let's say, Kotak, working with Citibank, working with Access, all of them individually to get to a same point. Because of UPI, which kind of defines standards as to how the payment should happen over a certain layer, all banks got connected on the same day. The third layer of India stack is account aggregator, which essentially is also called Sahmati layer. It's essentially think of it as a layer wherein your important data are stored, and these data could be your bank statements, your GST information, your stocks that you own. And the beauty of this layer is that you as an end customer own this data. So if I want to access, for example, Professor Manoj's data, I can't do it unless he wants me to do it. But why would Professor Manoj want to give it to me, right? That's the question. So let's say Professor Manoj wants to use, let's say, for example, Protect Me Well, right? And Protect Me Well is a slightly lengthier journey, asks about 20 odd questions. But he doesn't want to answer all those 20 questions, but still get a decent understanding of what his needs are. So I would request him to share his details about his bank statements, his assets, his liabilities that he has, which are already stored in data layer of account of consent manager, and ask him, okay, can I use it? And there are multiple options, right? Can I use it only once? Can I use it for a year? Can I use it and also store it? So he could say, okay, use it only once and delete it. I'll use that protocol, use the information, reduce the journey, and give him answer to the same question, which otherwise would have possibly taken longer. Let's understand this slightly better in the context of a small business. So if I run a small business and to expand it, I want credit from banks. Because I'm such a small player, my loan amount that I'm requesting, it would be a small amount, which also means that bank would make much smaller amount on the loan that they would offer. So they are not interested in talking to me because the overheads are already way too much as compared to the profit the bank would end up making. But this with this account manager, which consent manager, it would have all my, let's say, GST transactions that I've made, all the bank statements that my access to my bank accounts, right? And which would help bank through the use of technology understand whether I would be able to pay the loan or not, whether would be able to get an estimate of my credit worthiness of the firm that I run. Hence, bank would not have to spend a lot of time doing due diligence, trying to make that decision. And this is where account aggregator becomes very, very powerful.
So you talked about three layers in India stack. One was KYC, which is basically different from Unique Identity Authority of India.
Yeah.
Second was the payment part where the NPCI was in operation.
Yeah.
What about this account aggregator? Do we have any authority? I mean, my simple question is, the moment we're talking of different layers, do we have a central authority to integrate and take responsibility if something goes wrong?
Yeah, so India Stack is owned by government. So they are the ultimate authorities. And talking about account aggregator, I think there, I can't recall the name of the body yet, but there is a body which kind of authorizes you or approves you to become an account aggregator. It's not that anyone can become an account aggregator. It's generally banks and NBFCs who would become account aggregators. But there's also a provision for financial information users, which could be, which may or may not be the regulated entities. It could be something like a robo-advisor could potentially be of an FIU. But there is a central authority which gives approval as to who could become an account aggregator, who could become financial information user.
Okay, coming back to the insurance sector. Yeah. Now, after banking and financial services, this is a turn of insurance, and we see a lot of movement in Insurtech space also in terms of the foreign, investment in this particular sector. A lot many things are happening. Now, you people have taken a lead of maybe inviting people for collaborative effort of having something similar for the insurance industry. So what are the planning? What are the different layers of information or stack, what you say, is there in your mind?
Yeah. So India Insurtech stack is essentially India's stack for insurance. So what India stack did for, let's say, payments and identity, we are trying to do something very similar for the insurance side of things. In terms of layers, we haven't really identified layers yet. For example, just to give a feel for how different the layers could be, right? Recollect. Now, India stack had layer around identity, payment, and account aggregation. National health stack has layers which are geographically distributed. So there is local layer, there is state level layer, there is national layer. So layers could be very, very different in terms of how they are structured. And for India Insurtech stack, we are yet to identify what layers would look like. But each layer in both these stacks, that is India stack and national health stack, had building blocks, and each building block had a data and a tech standard. So what we clearly know at this point in time, as far as India Insurtech stack is concerned, we'll think about entire insurance value chain in the form of building blocks. Each building block which would have a associated tech standard and would also have a data standard. So just to elaborate this a bit more now, what does a building block mean, right? So maybe let's take a very, very simple example of journey of an end customer trying to buy insurance. The very first step should be that he should know what his needs are. Whether he wants term insurance of 1 crore or a 2 crore or a 3 crore, for how long does he want? For 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, right? So that's the first thing he needs to know. The second thing he needs to know is, okay, now I have identified that I need to know term insurance. Do I buy it from insurer A? Do I buy it from insurer B? Or do I buy it from insurer C? Then the third question could be, okay, if I'm buying from insurer A, do I buy their product X or product Y or product Z? Once this is decided, then the next step could be, okay, now I've figured out that I'm going to buy product X of insurer B. What is the premium that I'm gonna pay for it? Right. Of course, there are more information that you want to know as to benefits and the policy condition, but let's make it a very simplistic journey here. And after that, you decide to make a payment. Once the payment and the payment here would essentially mean that you're probably using India stack. So there would be relationship between several stacks that are being built, right? There could also be linked with national health stack here, because one of the things national health stack is building is creating your electronic health records. So if I have been to multiple doctors, all these records would be available for me to be able to share with whoever I want. So that could also be part of underwriting. So all I'm trying to do here is to give you a flavor for, while there is India Insurtech stack that we're talking about, it will definitely would have overlap with India stack. It will have overlap with national health stack. And this might be true for other stacks that are being built, right? Okay, so switching back to where we left. So the payment would be made, let's say, through India stack. Then it could go, your policy document could go and sit in DigiLocker. Essentially, need analyzer could be one block. A block that helps you identify the right product for you could be another block. A block that helps you fetch the premium rates based on the product could be another block. And a block or a piece of program that helps you buy the product could be another building block. The piece of block that helps you make the payment could be another building block. And the piece of program that helps you save in the digital logger could be another building block. For these building blocks to work together, there has to be a predefined standard mechanism to exchange data. And that's where the data standard would come in. And we can talk about it in more detail subsequently. Also, while doing this, we need to ensure that the data privacy and is ensured, the cybersecurity is taken care of. So these could be some of the tech standards that are built.
God, so much of linkages and so much of work is to be done. It's not that easy how I can understand. And perhaps the biggest challenge would be to integrating with maybe India stack, maybe health stack, maybe in future we can have tax stack coming from the IT department. So that will be really a challenging job. So my simple question to you now, because that was my question which you already answered. What is your expectation from the insurance fraternity, and who are the stakeholders, key stakeholders from your perspective?
Yeah.
And how has been the response? Because you started maybe 2-3 months back only. So how has been the response of the fraternity?
Yeah. So stakeholders are everyone who is going to get impacted and get benefited from India Insurtech stack, which would include insurers, reinsurers, insurtechs, the policymakers, the consultants, like the big fours. It could also be lawyers who would get involved. So essentially, anyone who is getting benefited from insurance in India Insurtech stack is a stakeholder for us. And we've this, like India stack and National Health stack, is being built through open collaboration. By open collaboration, I mean that we would write the document in multiple stages, and after each stage, we intend to reach out to wider audience, get their feedback. At the same time, when we are writing up this document, we are already taking help of several stakeholders who have been willing to contribute. For example, we have now India Insurtech Association has now joined hands with PwC, which brings in lot of brains, lot of time and effort that would be put in by PwC, and it would also help us meet the end objective, which is that this paper gets adopted by the policymakers. And PwC has been part of partners of PwC has been part of India Stack in past, so they've already kind of seen that journey for other stacks. In terms of response, when we first launched a vision paper, which was a 4-page document in terms of highlighting what is a vision, what are the principles involved in building India Insurtech stack, we got about 50 people responding to it. And it's a huge number given at that point in time, we did not have had the event. We did not talk about India Insurtech stack, and still people were willing to contribute. After the event, of course, there has been huge response. We're talking now, we're talking next week as part of API days. And also, there would be a subsequent conference later in the month where I'll be talking about India Insurtech stack. And now, whenever I talk to Insurtechs because of other reasons, they now recognize me as face of India Insurtech stack, and they willingly offer help. Right? They say, okay, while this conversation that we're doing is great, but I also want to contribute to India Insurtech stack because we see a lot of value in it. Because Insurtechs are going to get most benefited out of it, right? As at this point in time, let's say, for example, at this point in time, let's say there is a tech insurance broker who wants to sell policies of all insurance companies eventually. When they were to integrate with insurance companies, they have to work one by one with insurer A to get their API integrated, insurer B to get their API integrated. With India Insurtech stack coming in, all of this could happen with one single API.
Okay, so I think we had the opportunity of interacting with the officials of this new tech-based broking company who are working on POSP model.
Yeah.
They always, they cry about the possibility of getting integrated with the system of so many insurance companies.
Yeah.
If at all this kind of system comes, perhaps their life will be much more easy. Life of other those who will be coming in the similar kind of domain.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to understand, Sumit, that you have been getting a good response. What would be the roadmap in terms of stages and maybe a time frame?
Yeah. So the aim is to get the final paper out in 1 year's time, but there would be subsequent stages. I'll talk about them very briefly now. So we launched vision paper about 3 months back, where we highlighted the vision, mission, and the principles of how this would be built. The version that we are now, and after each version that we roll out, we'll reach out to the industry stakeholders to get their feedback so that it could be shaped up and eventually get adopted, right? The second version that we are now working on is to be able to define what does a building block look like, what does a data standard look like, what does a text standard look like for one of the blocks, which would kind of set the template for everything else that we're doing. So do we, the question that we are now debating is, do we get to a point where we actually define what does the output of a block look like and what should be the data format of it? So for example, if we go back to the example of needs analyzer, do we say that we need to have sum assured as one of the output? And if sum assured is one of the output, should it be in, should the precision be in lakhs or crores? Should be the precision with double digit, with no double digit after decimal places, or it should be without decimal places, right? That's the level of should we go to that level of detail, or should we just say, okay, sum assured should be the output? See, equally, the output should be the duration for which you need the cover. So how do we, what level of detail should we talk about, should we have? So that's one thing that we are discussing right now. And once we have done that, we'll roll the paper out, this version of it, get feedback. The next version is to build building blocks for one entire value chain of one business, one line of business. For example, motor insurance. Can we imagine the entire motor insurance business in the form of building blocks? So that would be rolled out. Once that is accepted, we've got feedback, we will have multiple streams working on other lines of business parallelly to be able to combine all of it together. And there could still be overlap here. For example, Telemetrics is used in motor insurance to understand how well the data, how well the driver is driving in a very simplistic manner. Telemetrics in health is used to understand how well this individual is exercising or how well his health is. So there would be overlap between streams as well in that sense. In that sense, everything is connected. The last layer would be putting everything together, again getting feedback and rolling the final paper out, which will happen in 12 months' time. The next version, the immediate next version, should be out in 1.5 months from now.
Okay, but Sumit, here I am having one fear because whatever you are saying, you are literally putting all the insurance company in a same platform, same logic.
Yeah.
Will it not kill the differentiation? This can work well for the
Yeah.
product which are standard. Like in recent past, IRDA has started giving a standard product which is to be sold by all the insurance company. Only they have got the authority of pricing it different.
Yeah.
So are you not going to restrict the choice of the customer if at all this, whatever you said, gets verified?
Right. So fair question. And the short answer is it would actually uh, increase the innovation, and I'll explain why. So let's digress a bit. Okay. So let's assume that we are taking an example of a car, and tire is one of the building blocks. Right? Think of entire car as full stack. Then tire of the car is a one building block. Now, you as a owner of a car or a driver of a car, do you care that whether it is JK tire, C8, or MRF? You don't, because all of these manufacturers have designed the tires for your model of car in a way that they are of the same width, same diameter, can handle certain pressure, or are required to handle certain pressure, should be able to remain fit for use for next, let's say, 1 lakh kilometers. So if you were to, let's say, theoretically, you could have four different manufacturers, tires of four different manufacturers, and you would still be fine, right? But does that stop the manufacturer of MRF to say that I'll come up with an innovation where I don't need tubes in my car, I'll have tubeless? Does that stop MRF from saying that, okay, I'll still use these tires which meet the data standards, that's the width and the diameter, but I'll come up with not rubber, with some other material? Because now the basic question around the standards is identified. You don't have to apply your mind. The innovation would be at the next level. Equally, now completing this thought with an insurance example, right? If I'm saying that, okay, for vehicle telematics, I need to know how frequently there is a sharp turn, how frequently the user or driver of the car is using mobile phone while driving, how frequently there are hard brakes, are my basic requirement. But that doesn't stop, let's say, a person implementing or a company implementing this particular block of vehicle telematics to say that, okay, I'll also tell you how many times he has exceeded speed limit. So what we're defining is the basic minimum requirement for the block to be implemented. Over and above, sky's the limit. As long as these conditions are met, you're fit for use. Over and above, totally up to you. There is no restriction. You could do whatever you want. And that's what you should be doing to remain in the game.
Very interesting and so much of an... Yes, sir. Now my set questions which I had in mind is over, Pratik sir. Now you can take the question. And even I request all the participants, if at all they have any question, query to Sumit, kindly put it in the chat box. We will be taking it. We have time for maybe 10-15 minutes more. It's there for that. Okay. Sir, over to you, Pratik sir.
Sumit, the thing that actually keeps coming back to me is the fact that even when you want to implement or build or put into practice a stack like the one they talked about, there has to be an ecosystem for it, particularly in India, when we do not have adequate data protection guidelines, legislations, So I have two questions on that. One is that how would you take care of the data protection, number one? And number two, how do you ensure that your stakeholders are not giving you fudged data?
Right. Interesting question, and I may not have very convincing answers to it, but let me give it a try. So in terms of data protection, what India Insurtech would define is, let's say, for example, if you're talking about encryption, for example, right, that you are anyone who is implementing a building block around security would have to follow SHA 256, for example, right? And that's where we really stop. What it means is then is left to anyone implementing that block is to implement SHA-256. And I don't know how do we verify that this has implemented SHA-256 or not. But eventually we'll probably have to come up with the ways to kind of say also kind of there has to be someone, some central body saying that, okay, this block is now approved, right? For example. So I do not have a very clear answer to it. In terms of fudge data, if you could elaborate a bit more, then I could attempt to answer it.
All right, I'll tell you how it is, because let's say there's an insurer A who already has a green insurance policy in place, particularly for automobile, I mean, pay as you use.
Yeah.
Now, and assuming that that particular insurer is very, very comfortable, they have good underwriters, conservative underwriters, I should say, to be more precise, they may not be too comfortable sharing their data with all the others whom we all know that the probability of leakage happens at any given moment of time.
Yeah.
Now, in such a situation, they decide that, okay, fine, 80% of the data that we give to you is genuine, 20% is off the record kind of a thing. How can you stop it, number one? And number two, if it happens, how can you ensure that the data is cleansed?
Yeah. So in this, the way India Insurtech stack or even India stack is designed, the customer is at the heart, right? I own my data. It's not the insurance company that owns my data, right? So for example, if you talk about the account aggregator layer of it, right? I as an individual know that how many stocks I own and what stocks I own. When I look at my data, I would know whether this is right or not, right? So that's one layer of check. If that's not right, I should have a mechanism to kind of raise it. Equally, talking about national health stack, I as a patient would know which doctors I have visited, what doctors have prescribed to me, and it's in the form of electronic health record. Equally, in the insurance side, we would have data around Telemetrics, for example. I would know, right? I mean, if I'm not driving well, I would know my score. I would know the components of my score. I would also know which insurance policies I hold. And for me, it's easy to verify as a customer. And there is a merit or there is a skin in the game involved here. If I don't verify my data before sharing it with others, the other would use it as if it is a true data and treat me accordingly, right? So it's unlikely that if there is no merit, no reason for insurance company to fudge the data. There's limited merit for me to. It's not that I have an authority to change data, right? I mean, I can see data, but it's not that I would be able to change my data, and I have no merit in if I were to use. If there is a merit in using sharing my data to the other customer, I would ensure that it's correct. Again, as I said, I may not have a convincing answer. We'll figure this out as we go along. Not something which we have thought through yet.
Actually, Sumit, this question cropped up only because of the fact that remember about 13-14 years back, we had this case of Satyam, and suddenly it exploded on the scene that for the last 4, 5, 6 years they were fudging data, and mind you, the big four were involved in auditing that particular organization. Now, the stage that the insurance companies, particularly the public sector general insurance companies, are going through today, the way the government is pushing them up to increase their solvency margin, this question cropped up because this would be an ideal time wherein they get a sort of a certification from India Insurtech that all is well. That come their chest and say all is well because the data that we are giving is in order, even though it may not be.
Yeah. So we'll have to, fair question, fair concerns. We'll have to find a way to deal with it. And not sure if India Insurtech Association would do it, but we'll have to have some authority doing it.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
One question I got in mind, because even our regulator IRDAI has also started India Insurance Bureau. That's a separate entity, and the very purpose was that sharing of the data among the participants, so that at least fraudulent things can be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any kind of support or initiative, I mean, is there, I mean, collaborative effort with them, sir?
Yeah, so we'll work with India Insurance Bureau. So IIDA, as you would know, IIDA, there were representation from IIDA in India Insurtech Association event. Now we understand that IIDA is very aggressive on Insurtech, and in principle, we have agreed to work together, and that's where we get access to IIB as well. So we'll be relying a lot on IIB and also finding ways to get more reliable data that eventually gets to IIB. Because IIB collects data from insurer, and which is then made available to others either for free or for paid as a paid service. So we'll also try and come up with data standards so that the information that is with IIB can be utilized in a lot more meaningful manner.
Definitely, I mean, some authority has to be there to push it to make it possible. So with this, there were no questions from the participants. Maybe they will be asking once we upload this video to social media. So thank you, Sumit, for giving this time. I also thank the partner, India Insurtech Association, for having this, we call it Insurtech Leadership Talk Series. So maybe earlier we have hosted 5-6 people. You are in the line, and it came at a very right time, just after this annual event. That was a fantastic event. And I wish all the best to India Insurtech Association, and particularly to you, because you have got a very big responsibility on your shoulder to take insurance industry in a different level. So thank you very much, Sumit, and all the best. Pratik sir, कुछ remark देना चाहेंगे?
There are a few things that actually crop up at this stage, and thanks to Sumit that he's just specifically highlighted it. One thing that I really appreciate is the fact that India Insurtech, or for that matter Sumit, they do not behave as if they know all. Fine, mistakes can happen, I may not know, but yes, we are working towards it. Now that is one point which actually sorts of infuses confidence in an individual that, okay, this organization can do something. Number two is the fact that all of us at this moment are really worried about the provisions of the data privacy, and rightly so, when Professor Pandey was talking about IFRS 17, that is actually knocking on the doors of the Indian insurers. So from that perspective, again, we are looking at an overhaul in the system. So if the data churning has to happen, if the accounting systems undergo a change, what we are looking at is the only aspect that is left is the underwriting, which I'm sure will be taken over by the new apps that come up in conjunction with India Insurtech. So from that perspective, like Professor Pandey rightly said, our good wishes are there with you. If in any way we can support you on these activities, we are there. And thank you very much, Sumit, for highlighting it in the simplest possible language so that our students could follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor Manoj, and thanks a lot, Pratik sir, for your kind words and encouragement. We would certainly need help from BIMTech as our partners. As I said, this is a mammoth project which will require many helping hands and brains. So I'll after this webinar, I'll also send a link wherein anyone who is keen on contributing to it can indicate their interest, and we can take it from there. Thanks a lot for having me and helping me spread awareness about India Insurtech Stack.